Nkosi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I'm with Carol Ann Cooper and Shireen Love Groove. How are you, ladies?
We're good, thank you. And you?
Good. All is good, all is well. So the topic for today is steps no one claps for: the art of meaningful recognition. Some of the most important work you will ever do won't come with applause, no spotlight, no public thank you, no viral moment, and yet the quiet steps are the very ones that build character, strength, community, and shape legacy. Carol Ann, you chose this topic. Would you like to explain to our audience what was on your mind when you choose the topic? Because for me, like, it's about learning to value what is invisible to the crowd, but essential to growth. Just want to hear from our lovely Carol Ann.
Okay, thanks, Nomsa. It actually arose out of a quote that I gave last week, which was momentum is built by honoring the steps no one claps for. And Shireen then took that and started saying, oh, that's something we could perhaps expand on and talk about. So actually, the idea came from Shireen. And it was like the comment that you made, Shireen, was like, what's the little gifts in the big gifts?
Yeah.
So perhaps you'd like to expand a bit further on your thoughts on this and how it sort of came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the gifts and the little gifts in the bigger gift, but obviously there are always little gifts, and maybe and the bits that are not clapped for is really for me the idea that very often with well, the way I grew up, certainly I was never really praised, right? And so I didn't know how to handle praise, but I never praised myself when I was successful at little things, right? So there is something which is, I think, is so fundamental, which is praise is like oxygen. When we when we get praised, it is like being given oxygen and we get this boost that we really like. Of course, when we praise, and there's really something about what's meaningful, right? What's meaningful praise and what's not meaningful praise. And I think and part of the topic today is meaningful recognition, right? How do we recognize how to give meaningful praise or meaningful feedback so that the person receives the oxygen boost? Otherwise, they're not getting the oxygen boost. They're not getting this extra bit. I don't know if any of you have ever put on an oxygen mask and then realized and had a situation and did a bit of exercise, and you realize you can do exercise effortlessly because oxygen just really fires up and gives us that extra bit that allows our energy to be freed. So it's really important. And so, if we can understand that praise is like giving oxygen, then we've got to think, how do we give oxygen to people? How do we recognize what's meaningful to somebody? And that's really important. How do we give meaningful praise? How do we give praise to those little steps, which we talked about the other day, why nobody doesn't clap, right, for the small steps very often, because they don't see it as meaningful.
Yeah.
They think, oh, this is just a step. Or if someone that, if I talk to someone, some of my clients, and just sort of say, what do you really do in your day? And you pay attention to some of the pregnant mums and or mums that's got newborn babies, and their day is really, there's so much they have to do, and they're doing an amazing job, but no one can praise them, right? And no one really understands just how important it is to really deeply acknowledge that. So I think what really inspired me with that the steps that no one claps for is really about how do we recognize how to praise someone with what they need, right? Not to just praise for what we think is praise, but how do we acknowledge what's important for them so that they get the oxygen boost, that they get that sense of euphoria and then want to do it again, right? Because that's the reward, right? Praise is a reward to some degree. Praise releases huge amounts of dopamine. So if we're giving meaningful praise, we give lots of dopamine, and dopamine is our learning hormone, yeah, neurotransmitter. When we have dopamine, we learn faster. Because if you find that you get a great reward, you think, oh, I'm going to have that, right? I'm going to have more of that. I'm going to do more of that. And that's where the dopamine feeds into behavior. So if we're giving praise that's meaningful, the person gets the dopamine hit. If we don't give praise that's meaningful, they don't. And then, of course, recognizing that there are lots of little steps that we take that should be praised. And we need to look at the meaningfulness of why that step was important. So where are you on meaningful praise?
I used to wanting praise, but not anymore. In my church, Dr. Olukoya always teaches us that we have to learn to walk without praise. He says sometimes the times where you will do the work, wonderful work, and you want people to praise you, and you want people to clap for you. But the day when people don't clap for you, you abandon your work because you think just because nobody is cheering your work is not good enough. So he teaches us to clap for ourselves, even when life it does not make sense. I like this topic, Carol Ann, because even Shirini said, what is meaningful praise? So he teaches us all that sometimes for him to be where he is, he had to go through people hatred towards hatred and stuff. So he says sometimes people will praise you because they see that the work that you do is meaningful, is it adds value to the society, to the community. But there are some people who come to you, they're not going to cheer up, or even your family members, they might not cheer you up, but it does not mean that your work is not good enough. And also he says he doesn't allow us in church to dress to kill, because people say you have to dress, you have to show off. He does not allow us to dress looking sexy, go to church looking sexy, because he says he teaches us to live a normal life. Because the day when you walk into church, you are wearing these beautiful clothes and you want everyone to clap and say, oh, your dress looks gorgeous. And when they don't clap, that brings insecurity. So he says, first, learn to clap for yourself. Whatever you do, clap. And even when you post on social media, you have to be the first person to like it, because it is so honorable when you're liking your post. The rest, it does not matter. So some people they will post on Facebook, go on social media, enthusiasm. And when people don't view your video, it's not good enough. And I've seen that with the guy, what is it called? It's called the Dummy something. I think he's got 3 million followers, more than that. He's working, Facebook took him, he works with Facebook. He said he did that on his journey when he started broadcasting. He got nothing for years. And he said the day he told his wife he was quitting, he wasn't joking. He was quitting, he'd had enough. No one was clapping, no one was viewing his videos. And while he was busy in the other room telling his wife, thinking he's annoying, running away from him. So his wife is, something says to his wife, go to his video and so on social media. So the wife is looking, the man is gone viral. And the man is in the other room is saying, no one claps for my video. I'm quitting everything. So if you listen to his story, you won't want anyone to clap for you. You would just keep going.
And it is about just finding that way to keep going, because as you were saying, Shireen, praise is like oxygen. It is that boosts us, but effective praise is what really boosts us. Because looking for a clap, how you've dressed, that's superficial. It's the effort that you put into turning up like that. That's real praise, because it acknowledges the steps you've taken to dress like that. You've specifically chosen that dress. You've taken time to look good, and that's where the true praise is. And that's the praise that really sinks into somebody and gives them the oxygen. That is effective praise. So it's about the process that takes you to the success or to where you get to. That's what doesn't get clapped. That's what doesn't normally get the praise. And actually, that's the praise. Sorry, that's what you need to praise, is the process. It's the effort, the strategy, the progress, rather than intelligence or outcomes. And actually, effective praise, it boosts the motivation, which is, like you say, gives it oxygen. It boosts the motivation. It builds growth mindset, because it's just shifts the mindset for you in a way that being praised for the outcome doesn't. And it encourages resilience, and also helps you to view your mistakes as learning opportunities. So that there's a whole shift that happens when you get effective praise. And actually, without that, what can happen is people can give up, because it affects their self-esteem, it reduces their persistence, and they sort of get into more of a fixed mindset, because they're constantly looking for that external validation of what they've done, not how they've got there, and therefore they end up avoiding challenges. And as I was sort of researching this and looking into it this morning, it's like, there's a little younger me that can really relate to this. And I go, okay, we'll work on that later, But it also brought up the questions. Well, what is effective praise? How can you give effective praise, and what can you be praised for? What that sort of that you don't normally clap for. So what are they things? And as I was looking into that, it was like, oh, yeah, no, so I haven't acknowledged any of that. And I realized that actually that is what's been the missing for me, because that effort hasn't been acknowledged, hasn't been praised. And as I see everyone else getting, succeeding, and it's like, but doing all this work, nothing said. I said, wow, okay, so how can we address that? So that was another question I dived into and had some ideas on. Again, so yeah, what is effective praise? What are the things that don't get clapped that we perhaps could start shifting our attention to, and praise ourselves? As Namsa said, it's learn to work. He said, learn to walk without praise. Maybe it's learning to walk and praise yourself. The effort for whatever you've done.
Yeah, I think for me, it's acknowledging, like what you said, Carol Ann, it's acknowledging the steps that it took me,
Mm,
and that it makes me not to take my work for granted.
mm. I think there's something about so just in a sense of what was kind of thinking with meaningful praise. I do think children have to learn to be praised. They have to be taught how to praise themselves before they will be able to do it, right? And they learn through modeling. So
Mhm.
I think walking
Yeah,
without receiving praise is just as bad as not having it. Do you know what I mean? Not just about yourself, but not giving it either, right? So I
yeah,
think there's something about, can we value what is given, right? Can we value the praise when someone praises us? That's really important, because people, if we don't value the praise gets given to us, then it means it's not meaningful. It means it's going to do nothing for us. It's not that oxygen aspect. So there's something about, when we want to praise someone, we really need to praise them according to their value, what their value system for that particular thing is. So it's kind of like this example, when something is very, very easy for someone and you praise them, they just they throw it off. They don't even hear it because it's so easy, particularly people with imposter syndrome. Because they're good at things. So this is not hard for them, right? They've forgotten all the effort that they took because it's now so easy. So you've got to find a way to word the praise so that they hear that what they did becomes valuable. So it's because they're not putting a value on it anymore. And maybe that's because right at the very beginning, they weren't treated as valuable.
yeah,
And so that, they had to learn a very hard way first. And so for them, the idea of praise is actually, yeah, it might conflict with some stuff, with God's stuff, right? It could be conflicting with all sorts of things. But when we talk about praise, we're talking about praise in the sense of, you are valuable and what you do is valuable. It's got a contribution, and that makes you important, right? So even if it's these little steps, we keep reaffirming then for ourselves that we are important. When we praise a child, we're not just necessarily praising them for a process, but we're praising them for the effort of doing something, and that we love them. We tell them in that moment in time. So there is something about the self-referenced value that also comes when we do praise. So when we praise someone, or when we really look at someone, so makeup, if someone has really made their face up and they've taken an effort, then you must acknowledge that effort and say, wow, you're looking stunning. It must have taken you a long time to have done this. How did you manage to do that? So by asking them those kinds of questions, they start go, oh, this is obviously valuable to somebody else. I hadn't realized that was actually an effort, right? There was something I
yeah,
took care. So we need to really not use the word verbalize, but we need to be able to be open to say what needs to be said, so that that person, we
mhm,
say what we're recognizing, what are we seeing, what are we valuing. We're valuing the fact that they're coming to us and they're taking time to look good, right?
yeah,
Say that, acknowledge, wow, that makes me feel really good that you've dressed up so nicely for me.
mhm,
That's the praise that someone gets back via a feedback mechanism. And that's the kind of praise that they'll hear, very much deeper than other kind of praise. So the moment we tell someone they're doing something and it makes us feel good, or it helps us to be able to cope with something else, they automatically hear it at a much higher value level.
mhm,
So I think, for me, the idea when we were talking about the unclapped steps, it was really about, in my mind, motivation, of course, but it was really about the unclapped steps of people not recognizing the value that that person has done and hasn't acknowledged it for them, so that they can then praise themselves and go, oh, yes, it's helpful to them. Yes, it's helpful. I must do more of that. So every time I do that, I can praise myself now. right? So you get that feedback, all those network feedbacks keep coming in a different way. So that was what was going on for me while I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I think you are right, Shireen, when you say our children have to be, we need to learn to praise our children. And also you said praising someone according to their value system, I think it is really, really important. And you said asking questions as well. I think there's a praise that has a meaning, but that there's some praise that people, they say it for the sake of saying it. Because I didn't realize until one of our coach at Coach Foundation, she said, look at your everyday things when you're saying a hello to someone. Is there meaning to it, or is it something that you are used to it? You feel that you have to do it, or do you do it and put a meaning to it? I never used to see it that way. So now when I'm saying hi to someone, I actually stop and mean it. Even in the office, when I get to the office in the morning, I mean it. When I'm like praising someone, I have to mean everything that I do. I have to mean, but before I'll be like, oh hi, oh your dress looks nice and stuff. But now I've learned to ask questions. You're reminding me, my neighbor, she had her face looked so nice. And I said to her, oh, the cream. I thought she had makeup. You're reminding me, I need to text her, asking her, give me the cream, the name of the cream. Yeah,
But you can start, you can say, your face looked so nice the other day that it really made me think, oh, I must have more of that cream. I must try that cream. So thank you very much for bringing that to light. So that then is praise for her.
yeah.
That constitutes full praise. And it will, and for me, that's, like you're saying, you've got to engage, like you used to go in the office and you used to say hi, 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 and you want to do it meaningful. I think when we really spend time clarifying what it is that makes it important, I think that's what really embeds it into somebody's neurology, and they start going, oh, yes,
Yeah.
fluffy up feathers, and they feel like much, much happier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about being specific about exactly what they've done or what they've done or what they did well. Being specific about it and sort of using statements instead of saying you're so smart, it's maybe saying I'm proud of you because you stuck with that maths problem and you
Yeah.
solved it, something like that. So actually praises the effort and the tenacity that went into it. And that's where, yes, it would be great, children need teaching that, but it can be taught that through modeling their parents. If the parents actually use that language, then they get to notice that themselves, and that's how they learn. It's not sort of a specific, you need to do this, but it's really parents actually modeling it themselves. And that's where it would be more effective. So certainly, yeah, being very specific on what went well and what that process was to get there is effective praise. And so it's their effort, their strategies, concentration, persistence, all things like that. Again, putting that into praise. And I think both of you said something about it being sincere and realistic.
Yeah.
That is key. Someone knows if you're not being sincere. It comes from the heart. It comes from authenticity and honesty. They'll feel that sincerity and they'll go, oh, yeah. And it's when you can help them feel that truth, that's when it really lands. It's not just something they hear. So it then also goes with the effort because they can feel that sincerity from you. The other thing to praise is actually improvements. This is again where parents can also, it's teaching children not comparing themselves to other people, but comparing themselves to their last performance. And if they've improved even just a little bit, say, yes, that's, well done, and clap for that. Because it is that improvement, no matter how small. That's what we very often don't acknowledge, and we don't clap. But that helps us to keep going. And so, yeah, really being specific. And there's a lot of things there around effective praise. And it's so, where was I going to go? What? Really? I've written some notes here. It's okay. But I'm reading them now and going, okay, what was said then? What did I make that note for? It's okay. I like what you said, Shireen, about praise. What you do, it gives that sense of it. What you're doing is valuable. That process that you've taken to get there is valuable. And therefore you're important. Because there's the you in the effort. The actual what you ended up doing is not you. You are in the effort. And I'm just really hearing that as I'm saying it, starting to really land now. And that's why it's important, because it's then you there, and it's saying you are important because you put the time in, you put the effort in. So yeah, I think that's key here. And it's really starting to land even more. There was sometimes the most important progress happens in silence, in secret, in seasons of patience. And I think it's then when we can recognize that, which goes back to praising improvement, recognizing what we've gone, and even when it's been really quiet, we've somehow improved. That's where we need to be able to acknowledge for ourselves and not really expect other people to do it. But it's great if somebody else does it. And if you can do it to someone else as well, because you can feel in giving them that praise, that effective praise, you can feel yourself how it's boosted them. Yeah. And that gives you a boost. It's like there's an exchange here. So yeah, really sort of learn what is effective praise, and begin to notice where you give praise, what you're giving praise for, and then go beyond that and look beyond it, behind it. What did that person do to get to that point of what you are actually praising them for? I think that's the skill in order to be able to give effective praise. What are you drawn to praise them for? And then go, right, how did they get to this point? What did they do? What did they give up? What effort did they put in? And really look for that and praise that, even if it's only one part of it. Because I think that then opens up that conversation and it helps it for it to go deeper. And that's your part in being able to have somebody else realize how important they are in the process. That's what just came to me.
I like that. Sorry, obviously, if you want to go.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's
but I
was
just kind of going. Yeah, there were a couple of things which really clicked for me and which was so important. But I love that, which was what called you to praise that person. What was it in you? Because we also talked about the mirroring, didn't we? We talked about the reflection in and out last week of when we see someone doing something that may be kind of reflecting within us. What is it, what is it about that we need to pay attention to? But I loved what you said here now as a different clarification. It's like, what drew you to want to praise that person, right? What drew you? And where is that reflecting within you? And how do we tell this person, how do we praise this person using that reflection? I think that, and so when I do think when we tell people about what it does for us, right? What it does for us, or what it may do for others, it helps them recognize they're part of the collective, right? Because no one's alone. I mean, we're not an island. So therefore, part of having an external praise is so that we feel we belong to some degree and we can contribute to some degree. And that makes us a little more altruistic, but it also helps the world go around a little bit better. And I think what you said something earlier on, which was what landed for me. And I was reminded of something that was, a long time ago. When you do metaphor work, very often you find that you say I, and we'll often say, "Where's the I?" And the I will be in the head, and then you say, "Where is the you?" And they'll go, "The you is here. The you is me," right? That we have these two located different things. So when we want to pray, it made me think about when we want to praise ourselves, we need to not just say I, we need to say you. Sherry, you did this. And use that word, because the you, in a way, is like bigger. It's like this bigger collective talking to you as well as you talking to you. But it's coming out of your mouth. But it's very different when it sounds as though it's outside you coming to you. So there's something about that, which was because that's hearing a sound that's external to yourself, that's then talking to you. So if you're going to praise yourself aloud. So that you're actually hearing it. That's quite important. Those little unclapped steps, praise yourself aloud. So those were the two things that just jumped up for me, and I wanted to just kind of bring them in because it felt very important what you said. In the retrospect of that mirroring effect, and recognizing what called you to praise, right? And that value system. So reflect that back to the person. So I didn't want to forget that at all. Sorry about that. Sorry, I just took over then, Nomsa. You carry on.
What called you to praise? I love that. That's really, really powerful, because that means when you know what called you to praise, it means you are praising that person. You're giving that person a meaningful praise, and I also think it's important for us to learn between recognition and approval seeking. And I like Carol Ann as well, what you said, from what Shireen said as well. You said you added that praise, being more specific, not to compare, teach the children not to compare themselves with others, but to compare themselves to their last performance. I think that is really, really powerful. Because it's easy for children to compare themselves with other people. I teach my children to never ever compare themselves with anybody, and whatever they do, I always make sure they know that they are good enough for themselves. They cannot be like anybody else, because they were created for themselves. God is specifically created them. So sometimes they might have hard times, or sometimes they might have good times, even at school. So I always make sure that. Actually, I manipulated my daughter when she was doing exams, the entry exams, and she actually passed. It worked. It actually worked. And I was like, and we were doing the test at home, and I was like, when she gets like, maybe if she gets 26 out of 30, and I'll be like, that's brilliant. You don't have to get all the answers. When I'm saying you don't have to get all the answers right, she wants to work hard to get the answers right. So yeah, it worked, because I was just praising, and the praising as well, when it comes from the heart as well. I think it is valuable, and the children, you can see it as well when you praise them for what they do. And also, what I have realized is my oldest one, when she was taking the journey of what she was doing, I realized that I need to ask questions of every step, everything that she's doing, so that she knows. It was my younger daughter actually who helped me to realize she's never asked for the art before. The woman, the girl, she doesn't do the art, but she's doing it at school. Me, I've never seen her. And then she comes out, she goes, she's drawing art, and then I'm like, this looks so gorgeous, Kayla. And she goes, but nobody cares about my work. And so I was like, oh, I care. So it's like, but how would I know your work if I've not seen it? So it's like, let's have a look at if there's any places where you can go actually and do it as a hobby and things like that. And we started doing some research. And since we started doing some research and her realizing that actually mommy cares, because at first she was doing it at school, she never done it at home. Me, I see her drawing, I'm thinking she's just likes drawing, and then now she's drawing it professional, and she's scaring me because that's my mom. My mom loves my mom. When she meets you, when you're saying she likes the dress, she comes and tests your material, how it tastes like, and she'll be drawing and the thing, and she'll come and design exactly what she's seen on you, even if you're not there. So for me, I didn't realize, and I was like, yeah, we need to do some research and see, and you can see the work. But I was like, she's young. If she's feeling that way, that means this older one it might be feeling the same way as well, but no communication. Carol Ann, now I try to ask questions, costume-wise, what is needed, and make sure that I can't be perfect, but I make sure, because I realize that children sometimes they can feel that people don't care. But it's not that people don't care, it's because they're not communicating their needs and things like that. But when they're doing something, I always like making sure that my comments are genuine. If they're doing something, like my daughter's handwriting used to be really bad, like my dad, doctor's handwriting, and my youngest one, I'll be like, not sure about the handwriting, and I think it needs improving. And she actually worked, and she was like, Mommy, you'll be really proud of me. I've been working hard on my handwriting. And I was like, yeah, that's actually good. So I think the praise, like when you say you have to be specific, praising people. But for me, I always make sure that, because and also Dr. Olukoya says that there are some people who say they speak their mind. When they are, instead of praising someone, they will speak words that hits someone. So he always say you have to be careful what you say to that person, because that person may stop what they are doing, the whole thing, because of your words. So he says there are some people who say, oh, I like speaking my mind. I'm a straightforward person. I like speaking my mind. They said that sometimes it works, but he says that sometimes it doesn't work. You have to be really, really careful that you don't hurt anyone. And the praise, like, I got praise from God, actually. I went to my pastor last week. I was so fed up. I was like, why do I keep having problems after problems and things like that? And I'm going to her, and then he referred me to one of our pastors to talk to him. And one of the pastors is looking at me like, I'm like, my problems is like, they're not, I've never had problems like this. And he says, you have problems because he says he's with you. I was like, who? He says, God, he actually saying he's pleased with you. He loves you so much. He's pleased with you, with what you're doing. And I'm like, he's the one that is causing problems. It's like, no, it's the opposition party but him. And everyone is laughing. And I'm like, this is not a laughing matter. I'm having problems. So he said, and then he now is giving me words of encouragement. Now God is giving me words of encouragement that through him and saying, tell her she will see my work. And then now I'm realizing that actually Satan knew that God was with me. He's bombarding me with problems, so I give up. So then now I get home and now I'm starting to stay focused now. And then that's when I realize actually, he's been with me for a long time. And me, I did not realize it because I'm just like, I'm focusing on what I'm going through instead of praising myself for what I have done for myself. So that's why Shireen and Kero Ani, I don't really look for praise from people, because the day you don't get that praise, you get disappointed. You're like, oh, what's wrong with me today? Why no one is praising me? So I've learned to take Dr. Olukoya's words. I just do things. Even when I go to church, I ask my pastor, what do you want me to do? Because, like when you complain too much. So I've learned that I was like, I don't need to look at somebody and say, you didn't do this, or praise them. So I need to go and ask people if they need my help. Or sometimes, like on social media, I just have to acknowledge people that are following me. Actually, I'm so impressed with my followers. My followers are actually changing the work. Oh my goodness. And I was like, these guys, they need to come for coaching. They're actually not coming for coaching, but you can see the work that they are doing. I'm like, oh my goodness. When I don't know whether your followers, guys, do that, but my followers, because I started being focused, and you see people that they're just doing things, what they do, but now they're into business. And there's this girl, the way she dresses now, she dresses like $1 million woman, and she's doing things. And I was like, I like Nkosi talk shows. My goodness. Honestly, I might have to write them down in their names, the people on my social media, the people that are actually have made some changes in their lives. And it's so magnificent when you see somebody doing that kind of work in front of you, and they're changing because of what you do every single day. So I think that is really, really amazing. And did I leave anything? And also, I think I'm going to write this Carol Ann for my children. Remember, don't compare yourself with others. Compare you with your last performance. I think that's powerful. It's going to their door. I'm going to put them to their bedroom door.
Yeah. But I love what you're saying about your followers. And I think the praise there is the praise for them being open to hearing what you're saying, to listening and taking it on board and taking action. That's the praise that is due there. And yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And for you, Nomsa, for the continuation and the consistency of showing up and spreading message, spreading word. Because it's sometimes people need a lot of times of hearing something before it starts sinking in. So it is that showing up, constantly showing up, which is brilliant. So it's lovely to hear these followers are actually, things are changing for them. Things are shifting. It's absolutely amazing. And so this is some of the things that nobody claps for, is you showing up consistently, maintaining work habits, working on your goals, things like going to the gym when you're really tired, or doing something when you're really tired, but just getting up and doing it anyway. And all of that is done when no one's watching. You're not sort of thinking, oh, am I being watched? Is that, oh, am I being watched? You do it, you know? So that's one of the things that nobody claps for. Time that you take to heal, or, you know, setting boundaries. Again, nobody really notices that or claps for it. Because sometimes when you set a boundary, some people rebel against it, don't they? They sort of, "Ugh." But again, it's that point for you to stop and give yourself a clap on the back. Give yourself a clap, pat yourself on the back, and say, I set my boundary. Because that's something nobody will clap for. So it's recognizing that. And, you know, things like choosing peace rather than proving a point. Just, do you have to prove a point? Sometimes it's just best just to breathe, smile, and just be peaceful. And again, that's something people won't necessarily clap for, but you could recognize it for yourself and clap. There are other things as well, you know, sort of, there's lots of things that, like when you set up a business, or you're starting writing a book, or you're writing something, developing a skill, there's no audience out there. And this is something I've realized, that actually when you see artists, you know, singers and that on these big stadiums, and they've got all these people and followers and cheering, and they have an audience for what they're doing. Sometimes what you do, your skill that you're doing, has no audience. Especially writing, when you're writing a book. Once the book's out there, there's an audience to read it and get feedback. But actually that process of writing, there is no audience. And so maybe it's helping. I'm just sort of, again, something is just coming to me, sharing the steps, the process behind the scenes with your audience, because then other writers might start to begin to realize, well, actually, accept the process and recognize the process that they're going through with writing. That actually there is no right audience until you actually publish what you've written, and so the effort in that isn't actually praised, and so because sometimes that's hard to keep going. So again, things like that, recognize any internal struggles that you have, any limiting beliefs that you've overcome, you know, things that you do, but you don't actually acknowledge. You just move on to the next problem. I think this is something we were talking about last week, wasn't it? About the small wins and the big wins, but actually it's that, well, I overcame that limiting belief. Celebrate, you know, celebrate those small wins. And it is that comparison between that progress that you've made. So again, that's, you know, praising that. And things like you've invested time, you've invested money in improving your skills, improving yourself in personal development, into your future. Things like that people don't see. Just all of those behind the scenes things. That's what can be praised, and that's what generally doesn't get a clap for. So I think what we're saying here is bring on the claps, because actually clapping, currently, it gets that blood flowing, boosts the heart, you know, so literally clap, physically clap yourself, you know, in that celebration. Give yourself a clap, not just a pat on the back, but clap and acknowledge what you've, you know, just achieved, or what you've done, or what you did to get there, you know. So yeah, so those are some of the things that no one claps for, because, you know, I had to ask that question. So what are the steps? Because it's like, well, what does no one clap for? And as I'm reading it and getting all, it's like, oh yeah, you know. So
even
I'm
preparing for this.
Yes,
exactly. Even prepare for this. Clap, clap, clap,
yes.
clap, clap. Hey, we got the topic done yesterday.
Yes.
You were persistent. You called me again.
I was in
All of
communication to
these
start with, and then it's like, yes, I swallowed up.
Exactly. That's the small win. Hey, we got it. We had to wait, but hey, we got it. We sorted that out. And yeah, so you know you can go to bed at the end of the day feeling good. But I think that's really important is those little claps. And maybe even writing a diary at the end of the day
Mhm.
and really looking at that diary, going through it with a focus of what was unclapped, right? What do I value that's unclapped? Maybe just use that as a focus so that you can clap for that
Mhm.
part in the day.
Yeah.
You know, could have been you made a good meal. It could be that something was a little more challenging than others. These are the things just to put there and to clap. Yeah. I think it's very
Love
important.
that question. Love that question. What did I do that was unclapped today?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Love it. Yeah,
Yeah. I think
that was
oh,
That was
maybe that's something we
like,
could try for a week and let's see how we go. And maybe we will find there are so many more things that we could have clapped for. I'm sure there is.
yeah, I think if you stay focused on something, you realize that most of the things that we do good work for ourselves, but we don't really clap for ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's why so many people they fall into depression because they think they're not doing enough, but they are actually doing enough. They don't see it.
Yeah.
For me, I acknowledge everything that I do. And I have learned to acknowledge everything that my children do, so that they can actually go off and do their things and things like that. Because if you don't really acknowledge and you want people to give you applause, no one will actually, they can give you applause for the sake of giving it, but is that applause where when life does not make sense, when you have to get up in the morning and you're like, oh, but I'm tired, but you pull yourself out of bed and give yourself that applause because I'm not a morning person, but I get out of bed anyway. But I have to learn to give myself a clap for once I'm out of bed, I'm fine. Sometimes when the alarm goes, I just have to close my eyes and just whoop. If I look at the time and I'm thinking, and let me set it up for 10 minutes. But if I just get out of bed, I just get out of bed. But sometimes I think sometimes I'm doing something or sometimes I really want to sleep and I'll see the Holy Spirit. I'll be like, that wasn't me that woke myself up. What the heck is that? So I'm like, lazy nonsense, get up and go. Because God calls you lazy if he's lazy. He called Dr. Olukoya lazy, and I was like, if he can call him lazy, the guy is always working, he's always doing live and things like that, broadcasting TVs. And I was like, what does he call me then? So yeah, I think we have to acknowledge the things that we do and clap for ourselves, the effort. I think everything it comes down to the effort that we do. And for me, I've learned when God was laughing and saying, actually tell her that I'm really pleased, I realize that actually if he is close, that means he is here to reward me. So now I've learned to communicate with him. And when I communicate with him, he's teaching me how to deal with things and how to move forward. Because there's this thing that I've realized that in order for him to bless you, I got to understand to appreciate what I have before I can move on and get whatever I want. So he's teaching to actually acknowledge the effort, the things that I'm doing and going on, like not expecting people to applaud me. It's like the dance. Everybody's saying when I meet people, everybody's saying it, like in the choir, this girl comes in, she goes, I like your dance, Nomsa, but I don't like they actually, not like I like you know what I like. It's actually, it's dance from the heart. That's what makes me happy. Because I smile a lot like my father. So then everyone is saying, everyone is like, oh yeah, me too. Then I realize it's the happiness actually that people are seeing. So I think because I smile a lot, my dad used to smile a lot. Honestly. Yeah, I smile a lot. Like, who else smiles a lot? Carol Ann smiles.
Mm.
And Tamia smiles a lot. And I do laugh in yoga as well. Guys,
Right.
it's 10 minutes past 2.
Yeah.
We clap for ourselves for a change. We've never really clapped for ourselves for today. We have to acknowledge being here. God is going to make us a billionaires. Yeah, he
We've got a
is.
lovely quote here just to leave people
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Actually, there's a couple. Make it a habit. Clap often, clap loud.
We'll do it again.
Loud.
And then the other one is sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader.
You do. You do.
So,
I
yeah.
think this is powerful. Becoming your own cheerleader is really important. Really, really important. That's what Lisa Nicholson always say when her speaking gigs. She says, be your own cheerleader. No one will cheer for you from the bottom of their heart, but you have to cheer yourself first before someone else cheers you up.
Mm.
What's your words of encouragement, Shireen, or you're done?
I'm done. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But the words of encouragement, yeah, really important. Look at what you're at the end of the day. Look at what things have been unclapped for is really what for me is important, and clap them. Yeah, give yourself the praise. Write it down if something was very that there was a new learning that came from that. Write that down so that you don't forget it. It's really quite important. Because we lose, there are so many thoughts we forget so very easily. So I think it's a very important thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe for us this week, we should play with that.
Yeah.
Have our own and pay attention to what we've not clapped for and then see what insights we've got for next week.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe we could start next week without, maybe not the thing, but at least just do an accountability on it.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Perhaps that could be our topic about the importance of accountability.
Yeah, right. Well, there we are. Look, you see, Caroline, we got a topic.
Yay.
Yeah.
How do we account and what did we do? What did we learn from? Let's do it as an experiment from what we're going to do. So people can model that. I think, we're here for them to model. That's what we're here. We're not here to teach them necessarily, but we're here to help model so that they can see what mistakes we make and not have to make them for themselves.
Yeah.
Or choose to make them and learn anyway. It's like, but it's the importance is learn from it if you choose. But having heard it,
Exactly.
sometimes people need
Isn't
to
it
do
good
it
to learn without having made the mistake yourself?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So,
All right, then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have you finished? Have we?
Yeah, I'm
You haven't
finished.
read.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
Nomsa, you haven't read.
I'll say